Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I hope you're all doing very well. So I just watched Gunpowder Milkshake. Let's talk about it. So Gunpowder Milkshake is directed by Novot Papashudo, I believe is how you pronounce the name. I'm so sorry if I butchered it. But this film centers on the character of Sam, who is portrayed by Karen Gillan, and she is an assassin. She has decided to take after her mother, who was also an assassin, and she's portrayed by Lena Headey. And they have a turbulent relationship because of their past and the fact that her mother wasn't present for her because of her assassin life, because of the lifestyle that she chose. And so ultimately Sam has grown up to be a cold-blooded killer. And she is one of the best assassins that the firm, this male-led League of Assassins-esque organization that is led by Paul Giamatti's Nathan, has ever had. And so at the beginning of the story we see Sam going on a typical mission, except this time around she ends up killing the wrong person. She kills the son of a very important gangster and he is out for blood as a result, but she no longer has the backing or protection of the firm. She is all on her own, and this film is all about her trying to survive in these horrible, dire circumstances, whilst at the same time she ends up having to babysit a little girl, because that's a trope that we've been seeing a lot lately. She ends up being saddled with this little girl called Emily, who is actually a victim of another crime that Sam committed in shooting her father. So this little girl is all on her own, so is Sam, and they find friendship with one another, with Sam kind of taking a liking to this little girl because she reminds her of herself when she was younger and she was in her mother's shadow. When it comes to my thoughts and feelings going into this film, I was really excited to see it because I'd watched the trailers, I saw the incredible cast that was in the film, and I was like, oh my goodness, why aren't more people talking about it? Like, this looks incredible. It is a super stylish and highly violent film that kind of leans towards being a John Wick kind of remake, except this time around with a female protagonist, which I can always get behind. But unfortunately the film isn't quite as cool as it wants to be. The film didn't end up being quite as cool and innovative as it thought it was going to be. It wasn't giving what it thought it was giving, and that would have been fine if it wasn't for the fact that the film was really trying so hard. Like, it was really trying hard, and I'm not going to admonish someone for trying. Like, it's good to try, but when you feel how hard it's trying to be stylish, to be different, to be not like the other girls, it is kind of embarrassing when it sometimes falls flat on its face. But I don't feel like the film overall is terrible. There are some redeeming qualities to it, which we'll go through. But before we delve any further into my thoughts on this movie, as per usual, if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to my channel and make sure you turn on your notifications so that you can be told when I upload next. Now, without further ado, let's get into this. First of all, as I mentioned, I think the cast here is really great. Like I said, Sam is this cold-blooded killer. She's kind of like Nebula, but if Nebula was an ordinary human being who had an absentee mother instead of Thanos as a father. And then of course you have Lena Headey portraying the character of Scarlett, who is Sam's mother, and she chose the life of revenge and taking revenge on the person who killed her husband instead of laying low and taking care of her daughter. And as a result they have a very turbulent relationship, as I mentioned, and it's not until 15 years later during the events of this film that they end up getting back into each other's lives. And then of course you have the amazing trio of librarians in Madeline, Florence and Anna May, who are portrayed by Carla Gugino, Michelle Yeoh and Angela Bassett respectively. And again, like, this cast is just insanely amazing, especially when it comes to the female characters. So I really was expecting more from this film. Like, how can you waste such a great cast? But unfortunately, as I mentioned before, a lot of this film is all style and no substance, and the style itself at times feels incredibly forced. But I was kind of okay with that. I was kind of forgiving of the fact that it was trying so hard to have an aesthetic. It was trying so hard to be the it girl of action films, and I was kind of okay with that, especially especially because it did have some really fun and interesting ideas. It does kind of try to be John Wick-esque in the form of having this kind of secret society of assassins that have rules and policies in place, and if you break those rules you no longer have the protection of that society. Like, there are very similar themes. But at the same time, I feel like they do have some extra ideas that do feel very unique to the film that could have, you know, been built into a franchise. Like, for example, the librarians and the fact that they get these books that are actually filled with weapons. I personally didn't understand why they would have the actual books with the pages kind of carved out to fit the weapons in. Why not just have some foam in there that's covered up by the cover of the book? Like, I feel like that's a little bit kinder to the books themselves. We do also get a bunch of name drops from female authors and books that are written by female authors in this film, and again, it's kind of pushing that kind of feminist angle of the film overall. But like I said, there are moments where the film is palpably trying so hard to present the character of Sam or any of the other characters in the film as being super cool, you know, too cool for school kind of situation. The slow motion walking, the hat that she wears at the beginning, which to me looked a little bit ridiculous. It didn't really look like it fit her very well. So yeah, it's kind of disappointing in that sense, because, you know, if you're going to be super cool, too cool for school situation, you're gonna have to deliver it well, because otherwise you're gonna look a little bit ridiculous. I will say one thing that I did very much enjoy about this film was its exploration of motherhood and that mother-daughter relationship that Sam and Scarlett had upon, you know, reuniting, as well as the added element of Emily being mixed into all of this. And she is a newly orphaned child and she's looking to Sam for guidance and for help during these chaotic circumstances, and Sam is like the last person that you would want a little girl looking up to, because she's super violent, she's a cold-blooded killer. Emily still respects her and still likes her because she is trying to protect them both, until of course you have that big reveal where it turns out that Sam is the reason why Emily is an orphan to begin with, because she shot her father. But afterwards Emily realizes that, you know, Sam did try to save her father by bringing her to that like special hospital, but unfortunately he didn't manage to survive. So just when you think Emily's going to turn against Sam, she doesn't, because she understands, you know, the situation. Then they end up working together against Nathan, which really does put Emily in a lot of danger in my opinion. It was fun seeing Emily dressed up as a Girl Scout at the end of the movie and she threatened Nathan, but like, he's still a very dangerous man. You can't be leaving this little girl to be standing there at his doorstep. I do think it was unfortunate that Madeline had to die in order to protect Emily, because I was a really huge fan of Madeline, and I would have liked to see a few flashbacks of the aunties taking care of a younger Sam in their library, because there are references to that, but we don't actually get to see it. I feel like it would have helped to establish that kind of maternal relationship that they had with Sam when she was younger. But overall, this film hardly reinvents the wheel. You can definitely see the John Wickian influences in the form of the kind of secret network that the film tries to create, and kind of deepening the lore surrounding this like underground organizations that exist, which I actually really like. And again, I was open to see how it would play with those themes in the film, but it's just a case of it trying too hard. And on top of that, it doesn't really help her case to establish how badass she is when everyone that she comes across in order to kill is pretty much a doofus. Like, especially the three guys that Nathan sends over, like, it doesn't really help when they're literal doofuses, when they're literal idiots, and she's killing them in all these creative ways without the use of her limbs. But it doesn't really have the same impact because they were never really adequate adversaries to begin with. So yeah, the film wasn't terrible, but it could have been great, especially considering the great cast involved. But unfortunately, because of the cringy as hell dialogue, as well as, like I said, it being so style over substance and not really allowing us to see the character of Sam as a cool character without beating us over the head with it, I feel like it missed out on being something that was more akin to Atomic Blonde or even John Wick. And so with all of that being said, I'm going to be giving Gunpowder Milkshake a 6 out of 10. So that's it from me. Now that I told you guys my thoughts on Gunpowder Milkshake, it's time for you guys to let me know what you thought of this film down in the comments below. Please be sure to subscribe to catch new videos coming up. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!